From The National, this is Trending Middle East. I'm Yasmin Al-Taji. It's Monday, June 23rd. Here are today's headlines. The UN's nuclear watchdog agency is convening today in an emergency meeting after the U.S. launched strikes on 3 nuclear sites in Iran. Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, said the IAEA Board of Governors will meet on the, quote, urgent situation in Iran. Grossi said the IAEA has been informed by the Iranian regulatory authorities that there has been no increase in off-site radiation levels after the recent attacks. Iran says the attack on Fordow, one of the targeted nuclear enrichment sites, resulted in less damage than reported in U.S. media. The U.S. is insisting its unprecedented attack on Iran overnight into Sunday was designed to be a one-off operation, not an open-ended war. U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, in a Sunday press briefing, said that the U.S. would still be prepared to respond to any acts of retaliation by Iran.
As President Trump has stated, the United States does not seek war. But let me be clear. We will act swiftly and decisively when our people, our partners, or our interests are threatened. Iran should listen to the President of the United States and know that he means it, every word.
Here's The National's Cody with more from Washington.
In the first major news conference from the Pentagon since the Iran nuclear attack, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth reiterated multiple times that the United States went to great lengths to make sure this would not result in an open-ended conflict, though he said the U.S. military was prepared for anything at this point as well. During the Pentagon news briefing with reporters, he boasted that U.S. planes, particularly the B-2 bombers, flew in from Missouri and into Iran completely undetected, and that those pilots were on their way home.
Lawmakers in the U.S. are split on whether U.S. President Donald Trump's act was unconstitutional. U.S. procedure says the president has the authority to respond militarily without the approval of Congress to an imminent threat. Trump said that's what this was, and that the strikes prevented Iran from building a nuclear weapon. The IAEA and the U.S.'s own intelligence have denied that Iran is close to building a nuclear weapon. Others in Congress oppose the notion that there was an imminent threat.
Some in Congress, however, particularly Democrats like Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, are not happy at all with President Trump for bypassing Congress and not seeking permission to strike Iran. In a press release, Senator Schumer said, quote, President Trump must provide the American people and Congress with clear answers on the actions taken tonight and their implications for the safety of Americans. No president should be allowed to unilaterally march this nation into something as consequential as war with erratic threats and no strategy. During the news conference, however, we should point out Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said that those who needed to be notified in Congress were notified of the strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities shortly after the U.S. bombers were out of harm's way.
Gulf countries and Iraq are monitoring radiation in the region following those U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. While there have been growing concerns about radiation, experts stress that the risk of contamination from the strikes so far remains minimal. Here's The National's Aarti Nagraj with more.
There have been some concerns about whether there is radiation contamination that could happen in the region. Now, most of the Gulf states have been monitoring radiation levels, and they have openly said that there are no reasons to fear at this point in time. The UAE and Kuwait came out on Sunday saying, they're continuously monitoring it. No reasons for concern at this point. Same with all of the other Gulf states as well as Iraq.
The facilities that have been targeted are associated with potential weapons-related nuclear activity. Those include the sites attacked by the U.S. overnight into Sunday, the Natanz uranium enrichment facility, the Isfahan site, which handles both enrichment and uranium conversion, and the Fordow fuel enrichment plant.
All of these are enrichment plants. So the possibility of a release of radiations from these facilities is highly unlikely. That's what Pete Bryant, who is an honorary professor in physics at the University of Liverpool, that's what he told The National. However, what he said is also that if Israel were to attack the Bushehr nuclear plant, then that would be cause for concern. There could be a very real risk.
There was confusion last week over whether Israel attacked Bushehr, Iran's only functioning nuclear power plant, situated along the Persian Gulf. An Israeli military spokesperson on Thursday had said Israel carried out a strike on Bushehr, but Another Israeli military official later walked back that claim without confirming or denying whether the plant was hit.
The IAEA has said something similar, saying that, if such an attack happens, it could have serious consequences, and then radiation levels would need to be monitored for several hundreds of kilometers.
Israel is dealing with the aftermath of retaliatory strikes from Iran, which destroyed parts of Tel Aviv. Iran launched at least 27 missiles at Israel Sunday morning, hours after the U.S. attack. Israeli medical workers said 86 people were injured in the attacks. The National's Thomas Helm reports from Jerusalem.
Politicians from the far right to the center left widely described it as a necessary and just effort that made not just Israel but the world safer, mirroring the talking points that we've heard from Israel ever since it began its strikes against Iran.
Israel's defense minister took to X to congratulate the Trump administration on the overnight operation on Iran's nuclear facilities. The U.S. has said the operation was not carried out in cooperation with Israel and was done completely independently.
The Israeli military tightened rules it issues to Israeli civilians regarding public gatherings, the ability of workplaces and schools to take place. People also keep hammering home the point that Israelis must stick to rules regarding seeking shelter when Iranian missile strikes take place. These strikes have been going on for some time, and they continue to see quite a degree of success. I spoke to one expert who said that while the interception rate of these very sophisticated Iranian missiles is impressive, they are proving to be extremely accurate, far more accurate than weapons that groups like Hamas or Hezbollah ever launched at Israel, meaning that Israel's much vaunted, but still not 100% perfect air defense array is having to work very, very hard to counteract these attacks.
That's all for this morning's headlines. You can get these stories and follow our live coverage on the Iran-Israel conflict at our site. Yasmin Al-Taji, The National.